I've heard people say the Garden of Eden story wasn't really about a fruit or a tree or anything of that sort, and that it was really about sex. To say it plainly, that it was about sex or intercourse, and that Adam slept with Eve, and or some people even say that it was the serpent that slept with Eve. If you've not heard that one, in fact, when I heard it, I was shocked that the serpent slept with Eve. Well, you would not believe this, but before I go into it, let me tell you something. Do you know that the key words for sexual relationship, amongst partners, I mean married couples, yeah, the key words in there like intimacy, cleanness, uh, to know, and all of that. They are the same keywords you would find when you're building a relationship with God. In worship, you're building intimacy with God. It's the same keywords. So you would find oneness, you would find cleave, you would find intimacy, you know, such uh, bonding with God in the form of worship, or it is worship to God. Those are the exact keywords you would find when two partners are being intimate or they know each other. Did you know that? Well, the reason for that is because marriage was patterned after God. Okay, that's just how He is. That is how it is done in the heavenly realms. It is that union, oneness, in worship. We are bonded to God. And it's the same way in marriage, or it is the same way marriage has been structured to be. Okay, so put that at the back of your mind. I'm going to come back to it. Let's go to the Garden of Eden. So I was doing a little reading on why God would put the tree in the middle of the garden if He did not want them to commit sin. I mean, He's the all-knowing God, right? So why would He do that? Is it in God's nature to tempt people? Is it? No. We all know that. If you don't, it means that, I don't know, you should go back to Sunday school. You should go back to Sunday school. But it's not in God's nature to tempt people. So why would He put the tree in the middle of the garden? Nowhere else but in the middle of the garden, somewhere that is so obvious and conspicuous, they cannot say that they did not see it. So why would God do that? The reason for that, if you would recall, when God created man, He gave him free will. Okay? We have a choice. Love should be voluntary. If you have to force love, even in our carnal world, if you have to force love, you know that then this one day, the shorty know they like you like that, The lady, the lady doesn't like you, or the other way around, because now even women are hunting after men. But if you have to force love, it means that no, the person doesn't really love you. But God has the power to cause man to love Him, to accept Him. But He decided to give us our free will so that we choose openly, we choose willingly. Then we know Him, or then it is agreed that yes, we indeed know who we are serving. We know Him, we have come to know Him, and we have accepted Him, and so we have chosen Him. Anytime I start talking about God and stuff like that, there's an attack on my voice. It's like some people want to take my voice. What is that? Huh? What is it? Anyway, so God has given us our free will, but it is up to man to make that decision. So the reason God put the tree in the middle of the garden, it was just symbolic. The only instruction that followed this free will was that Adam should not eat of the tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That one, he should not eat from it. And remember, this instruction was only given to Adam, not Eve. This would be the reason the sex story would not hold. Before Eve came, right, Adam knew what he had to do. And when Eve came, there was another instruction which formed the basis for marriage, or which formed the golden rule for marriage, that man would leave his house and cleave unto his wife, and they would multiply, they would fill the earth and all of that. So it means that sex was already permitted in the garden before the enemy came in. So that whole sex story, I don't know where they got that from, but there's even a song about it. And I've forgotten that account song. I've really and that kind of thing. That silly song. Yes, sex was already taking place. Sex in itself is not a sin. It was already taking place. It's something that God had blessed man and the woman. It was a way that they would procreate and fill the earth. So the instruction was already there. So how come it was only when Satan came in that sex took place in the garden? That's not true. So that story cannot hold. Anyway, let me continue. Now, to go back to why God put the tree in the middle of the garden, it was an opportunity for man to test their free will. God put it there, or God put the tree in the middle of the garden so that man would see it and still make a decision about where to go, about who to choose. So it was basically symbolic. It was an opportunity for man to test their free will. And we all know how the story went. Man fell through Eve. Okay, let me tell you why man fell. Remember I said that God does not tempt people. He gave man an instruction. You can eat of whatever thing in the garden, but do not eat of this tree. He expected man to exercise his leadership so that he would control his wife in that situation. Satan also combed the earth. Why did Satan choose a serpent or a snake? Why? There's a reason. I think that you should also go and do your research. Of all the animals Satan could have used, he chose a serpent. And we know that it's Satan that tempts people. Satan tempts. And before you can tempt somebody, you need to kind of convince them. You need to sound cunning and deceitful to be able to win them to your side. So he was already cheating in the game. God gave his instructions. They were clear. No influence from anywhere. But Satan chose to use ways and means, to tempt Eve, who was not given the instruction firsthand. So he used the back door to get Eve to eat of the tree and then pass it to her husband. So immediately, man became one with sin. Remember I told you that all the key words for, sexual relationships, like the intimacy and oneness and cleanness and everything, are the key words you will find when you are in worship with God, when you're building intimacy with God. It's the same thing. So when they ate of the tree, they immediately submitted to Satan and became one, cleaved onto the father of sin, who is Satan. So they built intimacy with Satan. Just like if they had made the other choice of choosing not to eat, they would have had that intimacy with God and built that worship with God. But they chose to do the opposite of that. So that is why sin was officially introduced into the world, because they became one with sin. And it wasn't just with humanity. They became, sin was introduced to creation officially. It entered creation, because I will need to explain that, but that is why from generation to generation, a child is born and you're already born into sin. Okay, when God sacked them from the Garden of Eden, they started having children, but then sin had already been introduced because they became one with the father of sin, with Satan. So just producing sinful, or when you bring a child into the world, is already coming into sin. There is sin in the child because we are reproducing the oneness that Satan had with humans until Jesus came in to make the atonement. I will come back with more details on what happened in the Garden of Eden. It looks like it's something that God wants to teach me. And so I am also going to share what I'm learning. I've told you that I'm not a preacher. I don't know if God will make me a preacher one day, which I'm really open to that, because I think it's fun, knowing all of these things. It's really interesting. I won't lie. I will not lie about it. It's really fun. But at the end of the day, when you understand these things, you're able to worship God well. You're able to, see God, see Jesus, why Jesus came to die for man. All of these things were happening in the Garden of Eden. I'll come and maybe later explain why Jesus, will juxtapose the first Adam and the second Adam, who is the first Adam we know and the second Adam as Jesus, and the conditions under which both operated. One in the wilderness and the other had everything and yet still sinned. And the other had nothing but still chose God. So I will come back. I have to rush to work. I will come back in my next video. Bye.